Good evening, everyone. On behalf of the WINSPIRATION 5.0 organizing team, I warmly welcome all of you to our third session of this exciting journey. Inspiration is more than just a program. It is a platform where ideas meet purpose and individuals grow into impactful leaders. Today's session is particularly meaningful as we explore a topic that is essential for every young professional striving to make a difference. Our focus today is on leadership development for young professionals. We will be diving into key areas such as self leadership and emotional intelligence, decision making and accountability, the role of youth in leadership, ethical leadership in a global context. These are not just concepts, they are critical skills that define how we lead ourselves and others in an ever changing world. It is now my pleasure to introduce our esteemed speaker for today. We are honored to have Mr. Jerom Adams, who currently serves as the Head of Finance, Innovation, Insights and Data Analytics at Shawbrook Bank PLC. With over 25 years of industry experience, he is a transformation leader known for shaping the future of CFO functions through strategic leadership and the integration of AI technologies. He brings a wealth of expertise in business intelligence, data analytics, enterprise performance management, finance transformation, and AI solutions. What truly sets him apart is his commitment to practical innovation, ethical leadership, and fostering collaborative environments where diverse ideas thrive. Today, we are privileged to learn from his insights and experiences. Without further ado, I invite Mr. Jeremy Adams to take the virtual stage and share his valuable insights with us. Over to you, Mr. Adams.
Thanks, Jessica. Can I check whether am I audible to everyone, or is everyone
Yes, you are
can you?
audible and visible.
Thanks a lot, and thanks for that introduction, Yashika. That was very nice of you. So first of all, I wanted to start with a confession. Yeah. So ma- during my younger days, probably when I was probably your age, um, I thought leadership as something that as something of a main character energy. I thought you're the main man, you're the person um, in front of the room, one with the loudest voice actually, and probably having the best title, who have the most followers. Um, and I'm sure we all think about this about leadership. It's something that as a destination we arrived at. But over time, what I realized was leadership is not all about that. Yeah. So leadership is all about it's not a trophy you win. It's a weight you actually carry in yourselves. The most important part of leadership or of that weight is not your talent or your charisma. It's about today's topic. It's about your ethics. So we will talk about this aspect today in more detail with some concepts. Now now ethics sounds like a boring word in today's world, or hopefully not. But in 2026 and going beyond, with obviously with a lot of AI technology going around, with a lot of deep fakes, there's a lot of curated hustle that is happening around with algorithmic echo chambers, and also we all lived in a filtered environment. The most rebellious thing that you can possess as a leader is actually being ethical. So let me remind you that again, ethics is actually the most rebellious thing you can have and possess, and you should take this very seriously as young leaders. Yeah? Let me explain why. Because ethics is what you do when the mute button is on, when no one is looking at you, when let's say we live in a world of a front page, isn't it? So if you remove that front page and if you put yourself in a alone environment, what you possess in yourself is what belongs to you, and how that is portrayed, whether it's whether it's in the front page or back rooms, is what you should be looking at. Yeah. Um, so when it comes to looking at ethical leadership, you ask the harder questions. How do things actually feel when the camera is off? If your decision making process was live streamed to everyone you care about, would you still make that choice? Yeah. So being ethical means having an inner compass before even someone hands over the map to you. Yeah. It's about deciding what you stand for. So start thinking about that. So when you are eventually sitting in a boardroom, you don't have to pause and wonder where your soul went. So with that, as our moderator explained or obviously introduced, my name is Jerom Adams. So I have been working with transforming organizations, especially in the CFO organizations or CFO functions in the financial institutes, shaping up a lot of building up teams or mindsets to the future. So in my world, I work with technology, I work with processes as well as people, shaping up their mindsets um, to build into the future. So AI is a big part of what I do, but not necessarily the only thing what I do. So integrating data, automation into massive organizations. But let me tell you one thing, yeah. Algorithms is actually easy. Building algorithms, building innovations, all that is quite easy. And managing projects like that for a leader is not, I wouldn't say straightforward, but it's typically something that can be managed. But for a leader, what is hard is actually working with people's mindsets, because human beings are wonderfully and messily unpredictable. So in an era where AI technology can optimize most of the things we do, the ultimate differentiator uh, probably in your career going forward won't be technical skills, because that's something that you will need to possess anyway, but will be your human courage. So the ethical side of what you do, because if you really look at it, a lot of the physical work that has been what's been done in the past was automated or optimized or brought into machine work by machines probably some time ago, and now we are going through a era of the human thinking being automated through machines or technology. But what you can't take out of the human is the curation, the ethics, the ownership, the responsibility, because I'm sure that also will be automated at some point, or will be moved to machinery at some point. But then if that happens, obviously our purpose will be lost. But for the moment, we are looking at the ethical side of things. As long as we have the ethical mindset, the ability to take reason out what is right, what is wrong, we should we should be okay. But at the same time, we should start looking at that seriously, because this is the moment we are navigating, especially with our leadership. So with that, I'm not sure whether I will try to obviously make it give you some key concepts around ethical leadership based on my experience as well. But I want to make this as open as interactive as possible. So feel free to stop me or pause me if you have any questions, or if you want to kind of talk probably in detail in some of the concepts I'm talking about. So with that, I'll probably start looking at maybe emotional intelligence, especially in the context of young leaders in Sri Lanka. So I'm sure this probably resonates in yourself. So I was obviously working in Sri Lanka probably some time ago, 25 years ago, as a young professional just leaving out of school. Getting into the corporate world, there was a specific work culture I kind of got used to, or had to get used to. So that was a culture which was obsessed more with titles. And I'm sure this probably might resonates with you as well. Your boss is revered as the only person who knows everything. And I'm not sure whether this is still relevant in Sri Lanka. We used to call our boss sir or madam, or treat their instructions as absolute law. Yeah. So now one of the things I was going through at that time is, is this right? Is this ethical? Or is this, treating, because, I'm sure we are humans, we are not God. So passing on instructions from the boss or your superiors, and then let's say if you were in middle management, or just got into to management, uh, and then passing on that instructions to your subordinate or your team, are we just passing on, or do you get to a area where you try to at least evaluate what those instructions are? Because what we should not get into is what I call jump culture. So I mean, back in the day, I'm sure this is still happening. When the boss says jump, the only question I ask is, or we ask is, how high, sir? Yeah. Is that your calling? Is that your pretty much, as leaders, what you should do? Because for me, that was pretty much, passing down instruction without evaluation is you're not a leader, you are basically a router. Yeah. You're just passing on information or passing on instructions. And let me tell you this, if you're a router, you will be replaced very soon. I mean, technology will replace, and in this day and age, AI and everything else that's happening around, you can be replaced. So you got to go beyond that. You got to be uh, have emotional intelligence to at least challenge what is being given, because your boss cannot be always right. So we'll talk about this in more in depth in today's session. Yeah. So in true leadership, or in this case, self-leadership, requires what I call emotional intelligence. I'm sure everyone knows the concept of emotional intelligence, but that isn't about being nice to everyone. A lot of people think being emotional intelligence means, I need to understand everyone's backgrounds, everyone's obviously difficulties, understandings, and try to be nice. But that's not what I'm talking about here. It's the acute mindfulness required to read the room, and to manage your own triggers, because you also can come with your own emotions, your kind of reactions to certain situations. How you manage that, and crucially, to identify blind spots, what you have. Yeah. So we all have them. Your bosses will have them. Your superiors will have them. And what we have is what we call biases and egos in areas we absolutely are certain we are right. So having that mindset of actually understanding we can be wrong, and that needs a bit of maturity in terms of your self-awareness, um, because AI cannot check your ego. Only your emotional intelligence can do that. So being mindfulness, understanding your mind, giving a due process to a careful curation about everything is quite useful here. Yeah. Now you might say, okay, what happens if the environment is toxic? So if, say, you have a boss who is very very strict on you, and you cannot be, you cannot question the boss, or you cannot question your superiors, will you get into trouble? But your ethical side of saying this is not right, but I need, whether I still simply pass on that information, or simply pass on that instructions. Now the crucial distinction here is, how to master the art of switch here in those cases. Now we all will deal with toxicity, or what I call difficult characters in our leadership careers, or at least in our work environments, and that will be upwards as well as downwards. So how do we professionally deal with these toxic behaviors? You need to set boundaries and absolutely stick to your guns in terms of your ethical side of things. Main thing is to maintain composure, and just as importantly, how to switch off, because sometimes when you get to these situations, you should not get engrossed with it. try to take some time off, switch off, and then try to kind of evaluate. That is quite important. I always find that 30 seconds, or even if you have to say overnight to kind of understand that situation, make a sound judgment, because what you don't want to do is make judgments when you're in a bad state. Yeah. So always important to make that switch off, or take the time off to make to compose yourself and understand how to deal with that situation. um, Now, one of the things that people get into, or fall into trap, is pretty much, your mental health, because sometimes you take these things very personally, and sometimes this leads to a lot of what I call stressful situations, and sometimes even your mental health can impact. You got to always understand, sometimes especially in a corporate world, you're not dealing with life or death. You're dealing with maybe numbers. You're dealing with certain probably crisis situations. But generally, one of the mantras I use is, if no one is dying because of this decision making, then it should not be something that you got to take it very seriously, or you got to take it very stressful, moving here numbers here and there. So sometimes you got to take the context into play, and obviously the situation and the person. But that's something you got to always understand. It's there are worse things that is happening in the world, but you can't take this into your own hands and then decide, or impact your mental health because of that. Yeah. Now, here's the critical distinction between switching off from toxic. Doesn't mean that you have to switch off from humanity itself. Okay. Now, one of the things that is happening in modern working environment is, especially with hybrid working world, uh, I find this as a big distinctions from the working environments I used to work probably 10-15 years ago to now, is we are losing a lot of human interaction. uh, I mean, a lot of people are now used to obviously meetings on Zoom. A lot of things happen in virtual worlds, um, and a lot of things are happening. A lot of the transactional behaviors in the corporate world is happening probably between during those office hours. I would encourage, as young leaders and going into senior leadership positions in future, is to what I call build those personal relationships that's beyond a virtual environment. Because what matters is the sentiment here, how you read people's sentiments, and you can't do that in a virtual world. And I would have loved, if we had this meeting in a kind of a face-to-face in-person setting. But obviously I can't read everyone's emotions here, or everyone's reactions here. But if that was the case, obviously my pitch would have been different, because I'm literally talking to a screen right now. But obviously I can see some of you in a 2D format at least. But reading, but one of the main things I've learned over time is, and especially with the change in working environments, especially if you want to be an ethical leader, is to read people's mindsets. And you can do that only by emotionally connecting and having a personal relationship, whether it's with your superiors, whether it's your colleagues, or counterparts, even with your partners, is that. um, now these things comes in unscripted moments, because if I talk from a personal experience, sometimes I get a lot of my emotional intelligence not in a meeting, but maybe outside the meeting, let's say through a corridor chat, or maybe going out with my team, or with my superiors, maybe going for a coffee chat, or maybe a drink after work. So don't stick your leadership into a 9 to 5 culture. Always try to build that, because your leadership is like, it's something that will be with you, and that you need to carry that pretty much right throughout your lifestyle. So think about that, how you build that relationship. Because I always find, when we have difficult situations, and when I wanted to manage expectations, especially with let's say with it's a strict deadline, or I have to manage expectations around non-deliverable or something, or even trying to give a very difficult message, it's always too good to have a personal relationship with that person, because then it's easy to give that message rather than having not have that connection. So in this day and age, try to look at how you build that, because how do you build that personal relationship? Because that is really will that's what really will build trust in you. If you want to transform an organization, you must invest time and connect with people on a deeply human level. So that's something I want to, as a concept, want to kind of make sure that you engrave in yourself. Just don't stick to these virtual meetings and corporate kind of frameworks. Try to go beyond that when it comes to understanding emotional intelligence. Right. I probably paused for a couple of minutes. If there's anyone wants to kind of throw out an idea or any question around that before I kind of go into to more concepts around some of the topics here today.
Yeah. So participants, if you have any questions related to what Mr. Adams has discussed so far, please feel free to unmute yourself or drop those questions in the chat box.
We have one hand raised. Yes.
Okay.
You can go ahead if you want to unmute.
Hi, I'm Jiten from Next Gen.
Hi,
My
Siten.
question is, yeah, hello. My question is, now you said you need to make a connection with people you're like talking to, like your bosses and stuff, right? So when you say that, what if it's like how do you do that when your boss is like, let's say, old enough to be your father, or like when there's like a really big uh gap in like maturity and like age? How do you like build something like that? Because they won't, even if you're interested in doing, they might undermine you, and like respect might not be there.
Yes. I think this segues to my kind of next kind of topic or the concept I was talking about. So it's a good question. That's a very valid question. Again, this so Sitan, I talked about or this is what I call growth mindset. Sometimes whilst you have growth mindset, sometimes not everyone has that growth mindset. So some people will have fixed mindsets. Now in the global context, now I used to have that experience again when I was obviously, I'm sure things have changed right now, but I had the same experience when I was working in Sri Lanka as a young professional. You can't change some people's mindsets because they're engrossed. Now either they need to change their mindset, or you need to navigate or find ways to do this. Now one of the things now I started learning around this is pretty much how do you now in terms of managing your relationships. Now we need to come to decision making skills and learning new things to navigate this. The hardest part is actually unlearning old things. Yeah, and this happens a lot in our organizations, especially with our mature leaders or senior leaders. Sometimes when they are grossed in a lot of these ways of working, and organizations are changing a lot. The environments are changing a lot. Sometimes whilst you learn new things and try to make decisions based on new things, you also got to unlearn some of the things you've already learned, which is no longer valid. Yeah, and this is where it gets to your point around, how do you, if someone is not willing to listen to me, or it's about then how you start looking at uh, finding investors. So that network connection can happen in many ways. Yeah. Now I found basically a cultural difference or a culture shock when I came, obviously working in the UK. Sometimes I don't find that boundaries or the barriers to approaching some of the senior leaders, because as I said, you can always go and have a coffee chat. You can always go to the pub with because after your work environments, everyone is equal. Everyone is considered equal. No one is a boss. No one is a. So you can do that pretty much
probably in a better setting outside probably traditional mindsets. It's how you start doing that. And this is where your connectivity, your communication skills, your networking skills, and ability to connect not just with your subordinates but with your leaders will come into play. So start thinking about, I can't give you the answer how you're going to do that, but that's something that you will have to work through with your personal experience, personal connections. Start looking at that, because that is quite important of getting people to unlearn what they have learned, because that's quite key in the modern day. Now I'll probably give you a example or experience that is not work related, by the way. Now when I was driving in Sri Lanka, I thought I was a very good driver. I could drive with one steering. I could navigate through any lane. I could probably drive fast as I can, and I thought I was a very good driver, and everyone thought I was a good driver. But when you come here, that is not considered as good driving. That is considered as pretty much, if I was driving like that, I probably would have not got my driving license here as well. So I had to unlearn some of those, what I thought was good driving lines or confidence in driving. I had to unlearn all that and to learn new ways of driving in terms of being safe and secure to get my license. So it's a similar concept even in a work environment. Sometimes you learn something, and sometimes what happens is in our school environments, we are being taught to be obedient, to follow instructions. Sometimes when you get to work environment, especially in a global context, sometimes you got to break the mold. You got to sometimes remove that mindset, unlearn those things, because what gets you into progression is about going beyond, not about being obedient. So those are the skills that you probably will have to learn. So in your situation, if you find it uncomfortable, put yourself in those uncomfortable situations. Go and speak to your boss. How do you do that? You will have to work that out. I hope that was probably give you a bit of a understanding of how you navigate those situations. Um, and one of the things in terms of unlearning is about getting right feedback or getting 360 feedback. Now we are again tuned to get feedback from our superiors or from our parents or whoever. Someone coming from let's say from our team or from subordinates, we don't consider that as feedback. So be open to understanding whatever feedback, and feedback can come in many ways. People will criticize you, people will have a go at you, people will constructively give you feedback. Feedback can come in many ways. So your brain must be attuned to taking this feedback in any way, but in the right way, because all this feedback helps you to develop your emotional intelligence and as well as your mind. Because as I said, we will all have blind spots. We think we are right, but sometimes we can be wrong. So these personal relationships, getting these feedbacks and having those interactions, as I said, these will not be given to you on virtual environments. These are all happening only on a personal level, deep level human relationships. So take that in the right spirit, because all this will do is improve and navigate, and sometimes help you unlearn and learn new things to make better decisions going forward. Yeah. But remember, once you gather that feedback from everyone, the responsibility rests entirely on you uh, to change yourself. You can't delegate that work. So just make sure that you take this feedback, always evaluate yourself, always try to be a better version of you every day, because you cannot get everything right all the time. Sometimes you will make mistakes. Even those mistakes will teach you a lot of these things. So you always got to think the concept, I own this, I got to fix this kind of, and then sometimes that needs to apply to yourself as well. Right. So
we have one more. Sorry, Mr. Adams, we have one more question from Pansilu. You have your hand raised.
Yeah. Hi, sir. I'm Pansilu. One of the questions I had was the same one that Jiten asked, and you answered that perfectly. So thank you for that. I have two other questions. The first question is um, something I've encountered as a challenge in the past as well, which is how do you actually give feedback without damaging relationships? You know, sometimes you have negative feedbacks, and how do you give that without damaging the relationship you have with the person?
Yeah. So again, this is my personal view, and everyone can have their own view. What I call the sandwich theory. Again, you got to understand, and then I brought this point earlier. Human mind is very complex, and you got to work with the mind in a way you can get the best out of the person. Yeah. So normally, what I do with my kind of team, or when I give feedback, is pretty much always give something positive, or encouragement, and in between you give something, or you have to be obviously direct and honest with your feedback. If you have to give something in terms of, let's say he needs to improve, or whether he's been that person has not been obviously up to mark in terms of the work, if you want to give that, you probably give that feedback, and later on also give something in terms of how do you improve on things, or you got to give your own view of how things can, or at least the option. Yeah. So I apply like some of the techniques, or concepts around coaching around this. I'm not giving the absolute answer, but you can give the options, or at least areas where they can figure out that answer. So always apply that, because that's, with encouragement, and obviously giving them the honest feedback, you probably can get better results, because what you want to do is, whilst the person is receiving that information, is to evaluate himself. So always give a positive feedback, then obviously give what is what your message, because as I said, you need to be authoritative. It's not about always being nice. It's about giving the message, your message across, and at the same time giving some options too. And sometimes, you probably might do this a couple of times, and still it's not or going the way you want, or you're not getting the right result. Obviously, then there'll be some hard decisions that needs to be taken, but that's part of leadership. But you can always give a message with that sandwich theory, I call.
Right. Thank you,
Does
sir.
that answer?
And my final question is, what's the right way to handle pressure as a leader? Because from my personal experience, I've seen some leaders, when they have too much pressure, when they have too much work on their hands, they tend to lose temper. They tend to rage out on their employees and stuff. So, like, how do you handle pressure as a leader? That's my final question.
Okay. uh, Again, you're touching another concept that I was going to talk about. I'll give you probably experience something I read from I think the book Obama. So the U.S. President Obama, he also had been the president of USA, one of the most powerful nations in the country and in the world. You obviously, there's a lot of decisions you have to make at that level. Now, whether you're the president, or whether you're the tea maker in in a shop in a village, your human capacity is the same. I mean, some people will have at a different level, but generally speaking, you only have a certain level of capacity in terms of making decisions. Now, what you got to understand is, if you think about your talking to your stress levels, if you think about your human brain as a let's say a basin, there's a limit of water that can take. Anything you try to put more water, it will just overflow, isn't it? So there's two things you need to do. You can't keep everything in your head. Yeah, there are certain times you need to take the water out, and then bring. So when you have to make those decisions, you need to take that decision, and then make that decision, and then remove that. So you need to, going back to that concept I talked about, switch off, switch on. That's valid here. And this is what I think in that book explains. And the other thing is, you need to start delegate some of, because what happens is, and I've seen this with a lot of organizations, a lot of senior leaders. You want absolute control in everything, and I don't think you can have that. Yeah, you need to start. You have put people into positions under you, or is to delegate those decision making, because and you got to give absolute power. Your role as a leader sometimes is to not to make those decisions, but to empower the people who make those decisions, and create the pathway for that. So that's absolutely important. Stress happens is when you overdo things, or try to take a lot that your human brain cannot you don't have the capacity. So just think about that, because you only can take a level of decision making. Beyond that, either you need to remove that and then bring on new decisions, because you can't take everything, or at a very transactional level or operational level, whatever decisions that you need to take, you start delegating this, and then build the right structure. And that will happen with maturity, with growth, and with obviously progression. But that's how you got to structure, because if not, you will be taking stressful situations. And stress is pretty much something that human brain, stress happens when you can't take decisions, if you don't have the capacity to take that decisions. And then, as I said, if your basin is overflowing, that's when stress happens.
All right. Thank you so much, sir.
Okay, right. So again, how long have we got? We got 10 more minutes, Yashika? Or?
Yeah, so we have about like 15 minutes.
15 minutes. Okay, so I'll talk about another concept here. I think I got about two more concepts to talk. Again, again, something I want to talk is what I call servant leadership. Yeah, so what I call an upward counsel. So when it comes to servant, again, we talk about leaders being absolute authorization, isn't it? It's, if you look at a pyramid, it's pretty much we have the boss there, and then everyone else is underneath. And in traditional hierarchy, everyone is to obey the boss. So just have this thought process if you're thinking about being an ethical leader, or a right leader. Think about flipping that pyramid upside down. Yeah. So your job as a leader is not have your team serving you, but to serve your team. So this is what I call servant leadership. Yeah. So your job is actually to make sure that your team or people underneath, you remove any roadblocks, have the bureaucracies, the inefficiencies, so that people can do the tasks the best. And to the point I made earlier, empower them. Yeah. So your job is pretty much making sure that you give the right tools, the right counsel, the right coaching that needs for your teams to prosper. And sometimes when doing this, we should probably get the right people. Sometimes, and what I normally do is, you always will have strengths, weaknesses. When you're trying to form your teams or build your teams, always try to look at where is your weak points, and try to find people who can fill those weak points. And then because that kind of collaborates very well in terms of organization success, because as I said, you can't be good at everything. There will be weak points. Sometimes you need to point the right people. So let's say in my case, I might not good at a lot of the administrative tasks. So you need to find someone who can do the administrative tasks for you, and you get involved with the strategy. So that's quite important. But at the same time, try to find how you can serve your teams. It's not about absolute authority. Yeah. And then upward counsel, again, going back to my earlier point, you need to start managing upwards as well. Yeah. Because your management, or you probably might be a SME of whatever you do. They can only make your decisions based on your counsel, because they will want your counsel. So look at how you can give advisory to your management in terms of when they also make their decisions, or if they cross that ethical line, you can make sure that you can tell them, look, this probably might be the wrong way. I looked at the information or what you require, can we do it differently? Or if we proceed this way, we are exposed to ourselves to risk. Can I recommend all this? So in that sense, how you communicate with your leadership teams, your superiors is going to be important. So always look at that upward counsel as well as servant leadership. Now, one of the things to do this is you got to be willing to put yourself into very difficult situations, because being a leader is not about being in a comfort zone. Comfort zone, anyone can do that. Manager can do that. But being a leader is all about putting yourself into very difficult situations. And sometimes I would encourage and advise intentionally to expose yourself into difficult situations and complex situations. Don't be afraid to put yourselves there, because if there's an opportunity to be involved with a difficult situations in your team or whatever project, because that's what will build your leadership muscles. Like, it's like going to the gym. The more you go and train, and the more harder you train, you build your muscles. But it's like that when it comes to leadership as well, especially in the context of ethical leadership. You got to put yourself in the difficult situations, because that's what will train your leadership muscles in terms of what to do the right thing. So have that thought as well. So I encourage everyone to look at situations, go and be there, and then even go and ask your superiors, can I be in this position? Can I put yourself? Sometimes it could be that you have to work late, go out of your comfort zone, go beyond above and beyond. Do that, because it's the time, it's the effort you are investing in yourself for your future. Yeah. So think about that as part of something that you can take on as a concept. Yeah. So last thing I want to talk about is in being ethical. In terms of being ethical leadership is about what I call an honesty discount. Now, I don't know whether this is a concept that you've come across. Now, what I want now, when you're trying to be ethical, and when you're trying to be honest, there will sometimes, and most of the time you will come across this, you will have a price to pay. Yeah, because not everyone will like you doing the right thing, because sometimes that would probably mean you are not being obedient to your organizations, what they want to do, but ethically you're saying, no, this is the right thing. It might be a short-term cost, but in the long term, what you are building is pretty much a trust that will give you authority to come on, because people will start trusting you a lot. Think of this as something that you probably invest in your education, isn't it? Whether it's professional, academic, there's a short-term cost, but in the long term, what you're gaining is knowledge and qualities that would in the long term gain in terms of qualification. It's like that. So we being honest sometimes in the short term, people will not buy you, but in the long term, and you got to persevere with this. You got to persevere. If you believe something is not right, don't do it, even though your bosses say, or with anyone says. If you think it's not right, try to sometimes you'll have to navigate your well. That will be almost, you might lose a deal, you might lose a bonus, or have a face friction. But these are difficult situations, or these are things that you need to be involved, because as I said, this discount you pay in the short term, in the long term, will give you a lot of trust and give you the ethic. Because in the global context, this is very important. I can't talk about the Sri Lankan context, because that probably is something that is still will probably needed, or you probably will not be able to change. But if you're trying to be a leader in the global context, and if you're trying to kind of explore yourself, you got to start looking at that honesty discount, and then pay a price in the short term. Right. So I hope all these concepts made sense. Not really, I don't have a slide, but hopefully, all these things makes sense or gives you some understanding of being an ethical leader in an environment that's going to change in the future. So just to summarize, then. Uh, Now, one of my school mottos was bearing the cross with a crown in view. So I apply that all the time in my life. So you will have to bear the weight right now, but with lot of future benefits in place. So if you don't invest, if you don't put in yourself into difficult situations, if you don't put yourself into understanding what is ethical leadership right now, then obviously you probably might not reap the benefits in the future. So try to start looking at that concepts right now, because you are stepping into rapidly to a economy that is evolving. Um, AI, as I said, is going to change the ways we are working, and trust me, it is going to work, because the things we are doing right now in our organizations, we probably don't need humans as we used to do. So what then differentiates humans from a workforce is actually the ability to curate, the ability to take decisions, the ability to take ownership, the ability to kind of make the right choice, because the machines can't do that. Machines will only um, obviously optimize the intelligence and as I said, the physical work we do, but humans are still needed to do that. And this is where you need to start navigating yourself into to get into those positions. And definitely AI can't be ethical for you, because AI is dependent on data that's happened in the past. That cannot it can have biasness, it can be it can have hallucinations, it can have to once that decision is given, making sure it is right or wrong is for the human. So hopefully that ability from human is not taken away. So think about your blind spots, um, and think about the upward courage I was talking about, uh, and the honesty discount I just talked about as well. So only you can do that. So don't be a router. Don't settle to a yes sir culture, or how I can jump culture. Think about the servant leader concept I was talking about, um, and the willingness to unlearn and learn new things when it comes to decision making out as well. So I think with that, I'd like to thank everyone for your energy, time, and also wish everyone all the very best for your future. So Yoshika, I think we are taking questions, or we are open to hearing thoughts of everyone, isn't it, right now, and then probably take some questions if we have.
Yeah, Mr. Adams. We have about 5 to 10 minutes, so I
Yeah.
think we can go for some questions from the participants.
Yeah, I'm keen to see everyone's thoughts, everyone's any questions I have, and hopefully I can answer them. Yeah.
Yeah, so as usual, you can raise your hands, then unmute and shoot your question, or just drop your question in the chat box. Do we have anyone?
I hope everyone, what I went through makes sense. If
Yeah,
does the questions
obviously.
come direct, yeah,
It
does the
was,
questions come directly to you, or does it come directly, or
uh,
can everyone raise
I,
the questions in the chat box?
Uh, it will show on everyone's chat, Mr. Adam. So it's like a open chat. So if anyone does put in anything, you will see it as well.
Yeah, but don't leave to chat boxes. If one wants to kind of raise a question, feel free to unmute yourself and then
Yes,
ask the
of
question.
course.
yeah.
Yeah. Guys,
As
any
I said,
questions?
put yourself
Please
into
feel
difficult
free.
situations if you can.
Or if you have something to share, your ideas, your perspective, also please feel free to do so.
So until maybe the participant, if anyone has a question, you all can obviously raise your hands. Until then, Mr. Adams, I actually have a question for you. Uh, So, there's this thing in Sri Lanka. So I'm relatively a young Gen Z professional in terms of HR, and I usually work with a lot of the senior consultants and clients. So what I've noticed is when it comes to leadership development, there is no sort of culture in, maybe not all corporates, but a handful that does not cultivate a leadership development culture for a young person who walks into a corporate setting for the first time to actually be comfortable in putting themselves out there. So obviously what happens is it's like a recurring cycle. Like, you get into the corporate, you listen to your boss, and then you become the boss, and then you do the same thing to the next batch of people who come under you. So I see it changing with our generation here and there, and leaders are actually starting to kind of come out of their shells because Gen Z is kind of a bit more demanding in terms of like getting their own space. But what I've heard is there's like a constant debate that the older generation, Gen Z will have to also learn to manage them and work their way through it. But there is also this thing saying that leaders at present also have to change certain ways. So in your perspective, do you see the leaders of today, in who are from the previous generations, changing their perspectives and their mindsets in a way to foster a leadership culture that they probably didn't get and they might have liked to? Um,
Yeah, so that's a very good question. Now, in terms of leadership, this is Anaya, isn't it? So
yeah.
Anaya, so one thing I say is, if your leaders are not encouraging or at least not prospering leadership development with obviously the Gen Zs and the future generations, they're absolutely missing a trick, because it's not a case of, once that generation is gone, this is not going to stop. This needs to evolve. Yeah. So you need to have transition plans. You need to have transformation plans in terms of how this is evolving. Now, one thing I will probably tell you to that point is how the leadership is going to change is going to be different, and it won't be the old ways. So with technology taking over, with a lot of these things taking over, I think there is a responsibility to you, or probably the generation that is coming forward, to understand, and hopefully these leadership uh, um, sessions will help you, because as I said, it's about unlearning yourself and learning new things. Um, how leadership is looked at right now won't be how leadership will be in, let's say, not even 2 years, in probably 6 months, because what we will be doing is we will not be managing people, we will be managing technologies, robots, bots, agents. They are the ones we will be managing. So how do we do that? Because you're taking the human emotion out of the way, and you're working with we probably need to get your work done with people who actually manages this technology. So I don't think the past generations knows how to do that. So the future generations will have to learn new ways of doing it. So just have a think about that, because it once it get to a stage where that is also been managing those kind of landscapes is also being automated or given to machinery, then it's game over. Then there's no purpose of life. But until such time, leadership will be there. But the dynamics of leadership is going to change, and that dynamics of leadership, I don't think the previous generations will know. But at the same time, we need to start looking at how we start handing over that. So I would encourage you to start having those serious conversations with your senior management, especially if you're working with HR. That's something that you will need to be into the picture. Have those difficult, because in this day and age, whether you're just out of school or a young professional or a senior management, everyone has a equal voice in the table. So put yourself into those difficult situations and give your views, because this is what's going to be the future. So if you're ebbed with your old ways of thinking, or if your senior management is still thinking about old ways of doing it, the truth of the matter is there won't be you probably will fall out of the curve. So if they don't think about it right now, I encourage them to start thinking about it. So there's a voice for you there. So just make sure that you raise that voice and you be part of that discussion.
Thank you. That explained it a lot. Thanks.
Yep.
Okay, so thank you so much, Mr. Adams, for this very insightful and informative session. I think you explained us very practical perspective on leadership. So once again, thank you very much for your valuable time and being here with us today.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity, and I wish everyone obviously every success in your careers and especially in your ethical leadership journey. So I thank you again.
Before you leave, we'll have to take a picture of with
Yeah.
everyone. Yeah.
Yeah. So all the participants, we kindly request you all to switch on your cameras so that we can all have a picture with Mr. Adams.
Should I take the picture? Is anyone taking it?
I think it's better you take it.
Dr. Sulo is saying something. Dr. Sulo, you're muted if you're speaking.
I will not be able to take Ahmed. The meeting still outside.
Okay, I'll take the picture. Okay. All right. So once again, if we can have everyone switching on their cameras, I'll just start taking the snapshots now. Okay. All right. Just give me a minute. Into the second slide. It's 2 more to go. Just the last slide. There's quite a lot of people. Okay. Right. Thank you so